guys said, thank you so much for coming out on Friday night, spending your time here with us at Beachbody. We're really excited to host everyone, and you know, it's just amazing to see everybody, you know, working professionals come out and you know, come to an event like this. So thank you very much. My name is Damien Caruana. I'm the Director of Quality Engineering and Quality Assurance at Beachbody. And tonight what I'm going to be talking about is our automation journey at Beachbody and how we move towards a model of continuous testing and try to improve our ability to deliver quality at speed. So we already kind of went over the agenda, but essentially in terms of our journey, I'm going to talk about the challenges that we had. I'm sure a lot of you have had similar challenges, so you'll probably be able to relate to some of the things that we faced. I'll talk about how we solved some of them. I'll show you our automation framework and talk about some of the design thinking that we put into place with it. And then lastly, I'll share some lessons learned and tips you know, that we've learned throughout this journey. And hopefully you can take some of those away and incorporate those into your automation practice, and they'll help you there as well. And then we'll open it up for questions. So if you have any questions at the end, I'll be more than happy to take those. And then as Jenny said, we'll move directly on to the Ask a Hiring Manager. Okay, so before coming here tonight, how many of you, let's see a show of hands, how many of you have heard of Beachbody? How many of you know of you? Oh wow, a lot of you, okay. Awesome. All right, well, Trevon's got some goodies, so we're gonna put you to the test here. And before I give you some fun facts about Beachbody, we'll see, does anybody know what our most successful programs, these are some of our programs over here, and there's one on there in particular that really stands out. People know us from, and it really put us on the map. Does anybody know what it is? Okay, who got it first?
I heard something over there. Hold people accountable. Was it you?
Yeah.
Okay, congratulations. So we have a gift bag for you. Shaker bottle, technology packet, and webcam cover as well.
Thank you.
All right, the second thing, has anybody actually done one of the programs? I saw that gentleman's hand back there. Which one have you done? B90X, the extreme one. Nice job.
I wish I had something to show for it.
I know it was a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Beachbody's been around for a little over 20 years. We just celebrated our 20-year anniversary not that long ago. We have over 350,000 coaches that help us promote our business and, you know, work with our customers and help them get into shape. A lot of people refer to us as the Netflix of fitness. So we had a similar model as they did, in the sense that we used to sell our programs on DVDs back in the day, and then we switched to this newer model where we have this streaming platform called Beachbody On Demand. And so we actually have over 1,100 workouts on there that you can do. There's something for everybody, from, you know, extreme programs like this gentleman mentioned, P90X, which is like 7 days a week type workouts. We have things that are like 20 minutes, 4 days a week. We have stuff if you're pregnant, we have stuff for kids, we have yoga, we have, I mean, it's pretty much any fitness or health-related goals you have, we have a program for it. So that's a little bit about us. Let's get to what you're here for, the automation journey. So I'll start out by giving a little bit of background and talk about some of the challenges that we faced early on. The biggest thing that we faced was working in an enterprise environment. We had a lot of applications that we needed to automate. These applications were across all different types of platforms. A lot of them were third party, which is always fun to automate, especially when you have a lot of customized business logic. And so what this resulted in was a lot of siloed automation efforts, you know, because automating different platforms like web, mobile, ERP systems, APIs, it requires different tools to automate these different platforms. And so what we had was we had like silos of automation. We didn't really have one centralized enterprise automation strategy. So that was the first big challenge. The second thing is long execution time. So we had some tests, we had a set of end-to-end tests that actually took 8 hours to run. This is like 9 tests. It took 8 hours to run. Sounds crazy, but for anybody who's automated ERP systems and you have customized logic and you go all the way down the chain in terms of like all the order management flows and supply chain and things like that, you have to wait for batch jobs and there's a lot of waiting in between. So it's not that crazy. Anyways, we ended up optimizing it, getting it down to 45 minutes, running on all our environments in parallel. But initially, we had a lot of tests that took a lot of time. Test data, that was a massive challenge, especially for the flows that are downstream. So if you're just registering a user, or you're just placing an order, things like that, it's not a big deal. But when you're talking about things like refund, returns, anything that's way down the chain, it requires test data to be in a specific state. A lot of times you need fresh test data every time. If you want to run the test, a lot of times you want to get into a continuous testing model. You need a lot of fresh data to be able to run those tests. That was another big challenge that we had. And then probably the number one challenge, and my guys are probably squirming over there, is the amount of environment issues that we had. I mean, we faced every imaginable reason for a test, an automated test to fail. Everything from networking issues to sauce issues to data issues to inventory being out of stock for the products we're trying to select. You name it, browser issues. There's just a million issues. There's just a million reasons why a test can fail, which will absolutely kill your automation productivity. So it turns out we weren't the only ones having this challenge. This is an interesting graphic that Sauce Labs published not too long ago that I got from them. And what it's really showing is it's the average, it's the percent of customers and their average passing rate for their tests. So you can see on the far right there, or left, that less than 19% of customers have their test passing 90%, at least 90% of the time, which is really where you want to be for these type of things. Anything less than that, you end up spending a lot of time looking into the failures. Why is it failing? Drilling down into the logs, drilling down into Jenkins, into Cucumber, or whatever you guys use. But anyways, yeah, the other big thing is you can see over 50%, it's like 52%-ish of their customers can't get their test to pass more than 75% of the time. That means every 1 out of 4 times you're looking into why something failed. So that's fine, I guess, if you're running it on a local machine and you don't have really any time pressure for running the test. But if you have it in a CI/CD pipeline, that's a disaster because it's always going to break. People are going to stop trusting the test. They don't want to include it anymore. They're not adding value. So things like that. So this was a big challenge we faced. Like I said, I saw this and this just kind of points out that a lot of people are having the same challenges. Let's do a quick poll in the room. For those that are doing automation now, where do you fall in this thing? Are you in the 90 to 100% pass range? Let's see a show of hands for that. Wow. Impressive. We have a few there. How about at 75 to 90? Okay, a few more. 50 to 75. Few there. And 0 to 50. Anyone want to admit it? Yeah. Anyway, so this was very eye-opening. You know what I mean? That our industry is facing this. So we'll talk about some of the things that we did to kind of alleviate these things. The first thing is it starts with people. It's kind of like a lot of other things. It all starts with the people that are working on the automation. So our industry has changed like a drastic amount over the last 5 years. Used to be you could use tools like QTP and UFT and just kind of record the script and modify it and parameterize it with like VBScript and things like that. But now it's pretty much, if you want to do automation, you have to be what's called an SDEP. I'm sure a lot of you have heard that role, software development, engineering, test. Basically, you have to be a software developer. You have to want to get into software development if you want to do automation these days. So that's the first key. Second is it requires a very diversified skill set, not just you personally, the skill set that you have to be able to be successful in automation, but also for the team. So, it's not just a scripting language, it's not just a programming language, but it's things like Jenkins and it's things like Maven and basically the whole DevOps toolchain. If you look at the entire toolchain for the SDLC, it's pretty massive how many tools are there. So you don't need to know everything about everything, but you need to have a very diversified skill set if you want to be successful in today's world of automation. The second thing was process. So this probably looks basic and straightforward to a lot of people, but actually there's some key things that I want to point out that really helped us. One was having some type of intake process. So you don't want to just take automation, take automation test cases from manual testers or take user stories and say, oh yeah, we should automate this because it's in a sprint, things like that. You want to have some process set up where you analyze the test case and see, do I really want to automate this? What's the ROI of it? And not just the ROI to build it, but what kind of maintenance is going to be involved, how difficult is it going to be to automate, and have some type of like validation check when you have your intake of test cases to automate. It's very important. Second thing is design, and this is probably even more important. Like one of the things that we found when we were going through the failures is a lot of the stuff was preventable. What I've seen a lot happen is people will just create automation scripts without thinking through like very far ahead. They'll look at the steps of the scenario that they want to automate. They'll probably do it manually once or twice to see how does the system work, what's the flow, and then they'll go right into automating. But actually, because of this whole thing of automation being a little bit more complex these days, and being a software developer doesn't build an application like that. They don't just jump right into building it, like they design it first. So that's another key thing that we implemented where our engineers will think through what they're automating. For example, like in EBS, like in an ERP system, right? You have things like you need jobs, you need processes running, you need jobs running, you need data, right? And so you got to think about these things before you actually build a test. Otherwise, what will happen is you'll get intermittent failures. It'll work, and then one example, like we have processes that run, and depending on how many records are being processed in that job, the job can take 2 minutes or it can take 30 minutes. So if you don't think through these things, then you automate it, and then the times that it takes 2 minutes is going to pass. It takes 20, 30 minutes, then you're not going to have enough wait time in there, and it's going to fail. Things like that. But just have a design process and think through, what is your automation script relying on? What is it depending on, and what could cause it to fail? And then probably the most important thing that I would say that contributed to our success of reducing the amount of failures, or at least managing them, is this whole concept of like testing your tests. I'm not sure why, but not enough people feel like do this, but we implemented this process where we actually put our tests through the grinder before we add the automation suite. So we run them hundreds of times, all the different browser combinations that we want to support, all our environments. We just schedule them to run. I mean, it's automation, right? You don't need to do anything. So you schedule them to run, and then the key to being successful with this is you have to have a mechanism to be able to look at the results in aggregate. If you can't look at the results in aggregate, and you're just looking in the logs one by one, this will never work. So I'll talk about how we set that up in our framework on the next slide, but essentially that's one of the keys to how we're able to get around this issue of constant failures. And then once you've basically flushed out all the issues and you feel like the test is reliable, then you can put it into your automation suite, your regression suite, and it'll go into more of a maintain mode. The third key is around strategy. So again, this is more around taking more of an enterprise approach. Now, if you're not in a position where you're the one defining the enterprise strategy for your organization, then at the very least you should define it for either your project or your application that you're responsible for automating. Think through, don't just get user stories or test cases and automate it one at a time. Think of a strategy. What types of tests am I going to want to automate? How am I going to want to run these? You know what I mean? Like what type of test sets am I going to create, and how often am I going to run these, and things like that. Think all that through before you start automating. Second thing here is automate the right tests. So I'm sure a lot of you have seen the automation pyramid, where it talks about having the most number of your tests be unit tests, and then the second most be at like the API layer, and then the third, very small tip of the triangle, be UI. You don't have to follow that to a T. There's not one size fits all, but part of making a strategy is making a strategy that's right for your organization. So we actually made a decision to not follow that directly for a few reasons. One, because of some of our applications. They're not conducive to having a lot of unit tests, like we have commercial out-of-the-box systems, and so it just doesn't lend itself for a lot of unit tests. The other thing is, because of the way our architecture is, we have a lot of data syndications, and so we do a lot of testing around that. We make sure that, hey, did it get to this system, did it get to this system? But anyways, that's all part of our strategy. So don't feel like there's a one-size-fits-all. Think of the tests that are going to give you the most bang for the buck. Think of the most efficient and creative way to automate them. You don't, just because you have a test case that says step 1, step 2, step 3, doesn't mean you have to automate it like that. Be creative. Hey, can I leverage an API instead of doing this through the UI? Can I work with the application team to, inject data into the application and put it in a certain state, so when we get there, it'll be at a certain point, and I won't have to go through all the prior steps, things like that. And then the third thing here is have a test data management strategy is very important, because again, if you get into that mode where you start testing your tests, you're going to need a lot of test data. And it's going to be different types of test data. It's going to be, some of it's going to need to be in a certain state, some of it's going to, it may need to be buried, it may need to be fresh, new every time. You may need to pull in other test data that's like a precondition for the test, things like that. But have that strategy all ironed out from the start. And then test environment management. So again, this is something where you got to think: are you going to set up like containers? Are you going to have an environment that's on demand? Are you not in an environment where we have like heavy applications, so we're not able to use a lot of that. We do have some systems where we containerize and things like that, but not all of them. So that would also play into the strategy. And then the fourth thing, there actually is no automation without this fourth thing, to be quite honest. It probably looks boring to a lot of you guys as automation engineers or test engineers, but as a director and somebody in management, I can tell you that this fourth one is absolutely essential. You always have to be focused on value-adding activities. That previous graph that I showed where you have so much failure, if you're spending a lot of time just looking into failures, you got to think like how much that takes away from the ROI of your automation. When I see people do ROI calculations on their automation, they really say like, oh, we have 100% automated, or we have this ROI on our automation. They don't factor in these like, oh, it failed, and I had to spend an hour looking into it, or I ran a suite of 200 tests and 50 of them failed, and I had to sit through those and things like that. That all factors in at the end of the day to the ROI. So very important to always be focused on creating like new high value add activities. And then implement KPIs to measure your success. So put yourself to the test. Am I really creating value here for the organization, or is this just something where just doing work every day? Notice, by the way, I didn't when I say focus on things that increase speed and save manual effort, I didn't talk about saving costs. That's actually a misnomer in the industry that people talk about. Like, oh, we can save all this money with automation. It's not designed for that. I mean, it's potentially possible, and I'm sure some people do it, but really don't. A lot of people in management like that. You know, as soon as they see they get like a little whiff of automation, they're like, oh, we can automate everything, get rid of the testers, and it'll be great, you know, and we'll save all this money. It doesn't really work like that. All it really does is, the purpose of automation is really just to, it's to free up like monotonous manual tasks. So also too, don't just think in terms of like automating tests. There's tons of things that you can automate. Data creation. We just built a program to automate like the data creation and setup for a complex genealogy program that we have. So that was something that took like many hours. The test engineer had to go in and manually set this data structure up every time we had a refresh in the environment and things like that. You can automate things like that. There's service virtualization. There's all kinds of things that you can do. So don't just look at it as automating tests. All right, let's talk a little bit about our framework that we built. So for those of you who here knows what a framework is, or has built a framework? Okay, that's most of you good. So a lot of this will look familiar. For those of you that don't know what a framework is, or you kind of know what it is, but it's a little fuzzy, you can think of it as kind of like the thing that does like the heavy lifting for the automation. So you have your entire automation suite. The framework is the part where it has all the common components. So you don't want to have any duplication. You want to have as little duplication in your automation as possible. You don't want to be duplicating like, connecting to a database in every script. You want to have that centralized. All your configurations, things like that. You want your scripts to be lightweight, so they're easy to create, they're fast to create, they're easy to maintain, things like that. So anyways, the approach that we took here with our framework is, because we have all these applications and platforms that we support, we wanted to build something where it was one framework. Remember I talked about the siloed automation and pockets and things like that, where we're using different tools and different frameworks. So we wanted to pull it all together for a number of reasons. One, so it was all centralized. We didn't have to repeat things in different frameworks. The second thing is we can do cool things like we have common reporting. So, regardless of whether it's like, we're using Selenium for web tests, or we're using Oats for Oracle EBS, or we're using SoapUI for our APIs, like we can run all our automation, together and see the reporting all in one place. We can see, the last 100 runs, we can slice it and dice it any way we want, by browser, by environment, things like that. It's very handy. The other thing is, if we want to, we can pass data back and forth between tests. If we want to have end-to-end scenarios, or automate user journeys and things like that, we can pass data back and forth between the platforms, which is normally a little bit tricky to do. So from a test data management point of view, we're using JSON. Part of the reason for that is because we use MongoDB as a data store. So remember I talked about storing the data so that you can, the execution data so that you can go back and slice it and dice it. So we're storing all that in MongoDB, which is a NoSQL database, and that uses JSON. The other thing is version control systems. So this is sometimes something that people make a mistake in not treating their automation code as production code. So everything should be stored in version control. You should have code reviews. You can do things like, for those of you who have heard of SonarQube, they came out with a plugin for Selenium where you can actually do linting on your Selenium code. So basically you can look for issues with your code, like a static scan, things like that. We're using, for the orchestration, we're using Jenkins and Travis, we're using hardest for deployments. So hardest has some advanced features for deploying where you can do like blue-green deployments, you can do canary deployments, you can deploy to a certain percentage of the user base, see if there's any issues, monitor the logs, it has API and all that good stuff. And then if there's any issues, immediately roll it back. If there's no issues, continue to roll out to the rest of the user base. And then from execution environments, we set it up. You can run it locally. So as you're building the automation suite, you can run it locally on your machine. We set it up. We're not currently using an on-prem Selenium grid. We thought about setting one up in the future, so we built that functionality in. We do most of our testing, at least for web and things like that, on Sauce Labs. So. And for reporting, we use Grafana, which is a visualization tool, which is pretty cool. So we have that connected to the MongoDB, and again, that allows us to slice and dice. We can run tests hundreds of times, and we can look at what were the most common failures. We can look at which tests are causing the most problems. I mean, there's like an infinite number of ways you can slice it and dice it. All right, so let's talk about some of the lessons we learned along the way. First one is shoot for the sweet spot of automation. So similar to some of the fitness programs that was on that opening screen, you have to pick the right sweet spot for you, and it's different at every company. People love to talk about, oh, we have this percentage of automation, we have that percentage of automation. It doesn't mean anything. It's really what it matters is what's right for your company, your situation, because some people will have brand new applications that are custom, that's easy to automate. You know what I mean? You can work with the developers, you can have, unique IDs and things like that. Other situations, you may have applications that are commercial systems, like we have third party, where the IDs are dynamically generated. It's a little bit harder to locate things on the page. So really, you have to look at it holistically and come up with a sweet spot. If you try to tackle too much, it's the same thing if you try to do P90X and you don't have the time and you don't have the energy, and you have 3 kids and you have a full-time job, like it's not going to happen. So you got to pick the sweet spot for you. We talked about this one, treat automation code at the same level of respect as production code. This is another one here. Create the right set of tests and then run them in a layered approach, right? So the other mistake I see is people build up these large automation suites and they'll try to run them all the time. Really what you want to do is you want to balance fast feedback with thoroughness. So what we've done here is we've created like 3 test sets. One is like a smoke/sanity test. So every time we do a build, hey, is the application up? Can you log in? Things like that. Just the basics, because we want that fast feedback. We have another set called a critical regression. So for our e-commerce, it's things like adding to the cart, placing an order, checking out, registration, things like that. So all the critical functions that you need for an e-commerce site to function. And then we have our third set, which is our full regression. So depending on the situation, we layer it. We start out after the build, we run smoke. Okay, did that work? If we want, we run the critical regression. Otherwise, we just run that like once or twice a day. And then the full, we really save for, when we have bigger changes and we want to address everything we have. Create a health check. This was a really good idea we came up with that helped us tremendously. So basically pre-test everything before you run the automation to see if you want to even run the automation. So I talked about all the failures that we struggled with, right? So a lot of that was caused because of the lower environments. People are in there tinkering, they're doing deployments, they're turning jobs off, they're changing data, things like that. So basically what we did is we created something that runs before we even run the automation to say, hey, is this process running? Are these servers up? Is this running? Is that running? Things like that. And that really helped bring down the number of failures. Thoroughly test your test before adding it to the regression suite. We talked about that. Iron out your process of how you're going to triage these things. So if you're running tests hundreds of times, you want to have a process. You don't want to every time, reinvent the wheel and, sit down and, okay, what is it again? And you look at the log. Like, have a process. I'm going to spend this much time. This is how I'm going to do it. Have the queries ready. Like, if you have a setup, kind of how we've set ours, where you can just query the database and slice the failures in different ways. Have that already, and do like step one, boom, 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 so that every day when every time you have failures, you can easily triage these things, and you don't spend a lot of time back to the value activities. And then the last thing is try to bubble up as much information as you can to make it easier to debug. So, using things like sauce, they make it really easy to include videos of the execution. That's really helpful for developers. Include these things in your report. It's something that we've built in. We have like a multi-layered report, so you can kind of drill down. You can see that at the run level, and you can see at the test level, you can see at the step level. And it's basically like you click on a link, you can see the video of the execution if it's a web. But in addition to that, bubble up the logs. What we did is we put like intelligence into our framework, so that basically when things fail, there's certain reasons why they may fail, and so we added that intelligence into our script, into our framework. So if it fails, is it in the staging table? Is it in the status, right? And then we can bubble that information up, so that when you look at the failure, you can immediately see, oh, it failed because of this, and not a generic error. Okay, so we're at the end. What questions do you guys have? I'll open it up for questions. In the back.
Hello, everybody. I have a question. Do you guys use mock or stub server for your automation test?
Sorry, can you say we use what?
Mock or stub server, like to mock data.
Oh, no. Yeah, for the test data strategy, we actually created, depending on the test, we have different tests have different data requirements. So we came up with a test data strategy that involves many different approaches. But the most common one that we use for when we need new data is we actually we use scripts to create the data, like thousands of records ahead of time, and we just have that scheduled to run on an ongoing basis. So we pre-populate basically the data that we need. Some of the tests we created, like, as part of the test. Some of it we create. Some of it doesn't require that, so we put it into like tables in the database. We have different approaches. You're welcome. Anything else in the back?
What about the KPIs you are asking to measure the success?
KPIs, yeah, good question. There's a lot of different things you can measure. You can measure things like script productivity. So you can measure, the team, how many scripts they're creating over time. So basically, what should happen? Remember how I talked about like the intelligence should be in the framework, all the common components should be in the framework. So typically, what you should see is if you measure like script productivity, is you should see like at the beginning it'll be fairly low, and then over time it'll kind of trend up. And the reason for that is because it gets easier and easier to write scripts. The more you build out the framework, the more common functions and libraries and page objects and things like that you put in the framework. Anyways, that's one, script productivity. We measure a lot of KPIs around our passing rates. So we have some end-to-end tests that we run every day. Because it's end-to-end, it involves a lot of different syndications and a lot of different systems, and we had a lot of failures with that. So we monitored, the number of times that passed and failed throughout the month, things like that.
Hi, in Beachbody, how do you calculate how much money did you save with automation?
Sorry, one more time.
How do you calculate how much money did you save using automation?
Oh, yeah, that's what I was saying earlier, is that it's very tempting to come up with calculations, but you can easily do it, right? You can talk about the number of times the automation ran, you can put in, a tester's hourly rate or bill rate, and you can come up with calculations to show, oh, look, we saved this much money. But I actually avoid that calculation. I talk about it more in terms of time saved, just because there's all kinds of hidden costs, if you will, that are involved in automation. There's the actual scripting, there's the pre-work, the design for building the automation, there's the maintenance of it, there's the framework which you have to split out. So it's actually really tough to calculate that metric, is another reason I don't really like it. But I try to focus on the time saved, because that's more true. You can look at the number of executions and how many times a manual tester would have had to run that scenario and how long it takes. One of the things that we do for our test cases is we put for each one of them the amount of time that it takes to run it, so that we can tally it up and use those calculations.
Evgeny, do we have more time for questions, or do you?
Last question.
Last question. I know you had one earlier.
Yeah. Could you give an example of one of the intelligent things that you bubble up and how you did it?
Yeah, that's a good question. So one of the things is in our end-to-end test, for example, we're waiting for, we place an order through the front end, through the web e-commerce site, and we're waiting for that order to make it to EBS and our order management system and things like that. So it goes through all these intermediate processes in the background. Some of them are synchronous, some of them are asynchronous, and so basically, and we never know how long it's going to take, because there's a lot of things happening in the environment, like I mentioned. Other people are, depending on how many other orders are being placed. We actually have something where it's called continuities. So if people buy one of our products and they subscribe to it on a monthly basis, those orders all get processed in a batch. So what we do is we can check the table directly. So for example, if we place the order and then we're checking the system, is it there yet? No, it's not there yet. We can actually check a staging table, and there's different codes in there. And so if it's a certain code, then it means it got stuck. The other thing is we have tax calculation savers we use. So if that thing is down, then it'll cause the automation to fail. So we can check if that's down. Basically what we did is, as we were experiencing failures, we were adding these little intelligence checks to just follow up more information and not just report a general failure. Oh, it didn't get to this system. So we bubble up, and it didn't get to the system because it makes it much quicker to troubleshoot.
All right, guys, let's do a 5 minutes break, and we'll start with another session. All right, 5 minutes.
Restroom is right along the corner here.